Today we're going to make this from start to finish. This is Casablanca Cargo and I'm Kathy. So it says to myself, Kathy, let's make some, postage stamps. And it says, well, what do I need? Well, I need some pictures. And I need to cut them out from somewhere. And I need something to glue the pictures on, and I need something to mount the pictures onto, that type of thing. I may need some stamps. I may need some archival ink. I need some tea bags to cover the pictures. And so I have to drink a whole bunch of tea and let the tea bags dry out. And I need some glue. And I don't have Mod Podge, so I'm going to use just old regular school glue and a sponge brush. Last weekend, my husband and I went out of town and we went to Barstow. He loves it up there because it reminds him of Albuquerque, where he grew up in the desert and all that. He had a great time. I had a great time. And we stopped at the travel center so I could get some brochures. And lo and behold, it was the solar eclipse. That's a picture my husband took. Here's a picture of us looking at the solar eclipse. The ladies at the travel center had ordered some solar eclipse sunglasses and let us borrow them, and sent, one of the ladies took a picture of us looking at the eclipse. I never thought we would be able to, because when I looked it up, California wasn't one of the chosen states to be able to see the solar eclipse. But, it was just like a thumbnail eclipse, but it was pretty cool. We had a lot of fun. So I love to pick up the travel magazines and brochures when we go to Barstow. And this one is just, I just spoke to me when I was looking through it, like, hey, these would make really, really fabulous postage stamps. And I'll tell you why. I have found that if I find bright colored pictures like the ones that I'm cutting out here, and I'm using my finger blade on some of them because it's just easier than, moving the magazine around. If I use bright colors, then when I put the tea bag on it, you can see the image still behind it a lot easier, but it is muted. The color is muted, but it is still viable. So here I am going through this thing, lickety-split, looking for some images. Some of them will make really great postcards later. Okay, so I've got my pieces now cut out. I've got this bottom of a bag that I want to use. It's been the machine folded and glued and stuff, so I'm going to pull that apart. And I'm going to get ready now to glue these pictures down to the paper. So as I said earlier, I'm going to use school glue. You can use Mod Podge. You can use PVA glue. You can use school glue. And right now, when I first start this, I'm going to not water it down. The last time I used school glue, I didn't water it down. There's my, you can say I use this lid for painting as well. So on this other side, I'm just going to start using a little dollop of school glue there, and try not to saturate the picture too much, but make sure that at least it's got glue, to the edges, and then put some glue on top. And then I'm going to try these little tea bags. I like the tea bags that are triangled or folded, and then you unfold them, you get a bigger surface. But some of these little ones are darker and more, they're interesting. So I didn't want to just throw them away. I thought I'd just try them. And yeah, so you'll see throughout this portion with the gluing that I use different hues of tea bags, because some brewed darker, some brewed lighter, depending on what kind of tea was in the bag, and then the size of the bag. And I tried to keep enough space around the image so that the tea bags will dry with some edging, with some edging to them around the image. You can also piece together tea bags. You don't have to waste really any piece of tea bag. you can piece them together, and this is what I'm doing here, demonstrating. Yeah, so it's just a lot of fun, and I did this with gluing down stuff and putting tea bags over it early in an earlier video, and I just used the school glue, and it worked out really well. And it's still held. It's still there, so it hasn't fallen off the page. Eventually, I had to add some water to the glue. I think it was because either the glue was older or it was warmer today. I don't know. But it was starting to really not spread around like I'd like it to. So I finished placing all my pictures and tea bags onto the brown bag here, and I let it set to dry overnight. 24 hours later, we have some fabulous stuff going on here, I dare say. As you can see, the picture has come up a bit through the tea bag. You can still see the image somewhat. Some of them are better than others. It just, depends on the color saturation of the picture, I suppose. So what I do now is, what I'm going to do right now is trim the pieces, and I'm going to use my Tim Holtz decal edge trimmer. Now, I saw him demonstrate this once on a video. He doesn't go up to the top and smash down, because I don't know. I really think that there's a little bit of a design flaw in the trimmer, that it doesn't trim very well at the top. So he goes to the middle, so I decided I'm going to go in the middle, and it actually worked out a lot better. There's still some times where it's gripped, but I went ahead and did all of those off camera. Now here's my little caboodle box where I've put my inks down in the bottom, because I grew out of the other box that I had my inks in. And again, some of my little stamps and things will be coming up later. I'm going to use sepia now with my blending brush. And I feel that it, get out of there. I feel it helps the image to show up better than after the tea bag has been applied and dried and stuff. I think it, you could see this one pretty good as it was, but I think for the other ones that have more brown in the picture, I actually think that the blending brush with some sort of vintage color, sepia, um, vintage photo, coffee, Pebble Beach, those types of colors can help the image to show up a little bit better, more defined. Yeah. So now I am, instead of taking all these little bits to the sewing machine and sewing around them, which is an option, can be done, I decided to use my stamp stitches. I don't use them enough, and so in this project I decided to pull them out, and I'm just going to stitch. Yeah, I'm just going to stitch. I'm just going to stamp the stitches around the pictures, and then on the edges I will distress the edges with the jet black. I use the jet black for the stitches as well. It's archival ink, so it shows up better on glued medium like this, So I have different stitches, and this now I decided, maybe can I do two stamps at one time? Can I actually go over two images at one time? So why not? I'll give it a chance, and just kind of went slow and tried to keep it steady and smushed it down, and it worked. And that was awesome, because then took less time. It took less time to stamp around all the images, and I just every so often I'll change out the stitch stamp and use a different stitch. I really like this stamp. I like that stitch look as well. So these are my little stamps, right? So now I've got little postage cancel stamps, the destination, or the not destination, it's where it was mailed from stamp. I don't even remember what the technical word is for that, but anyway, these are my little stamps. And so I'm going to go through and stamp all the images, and now I found this little tiny dragonfly. Isn't it cute? I found it in my little caboodle case over there, so I decided to just give the majority of my stamps a little dragonfly. That's the theme throughout. So let's see what we're doing now. I have stamps and they have been used, so now I am just canceling the stamps. And there we go. It's that easy. Yep. Every one of them then got canceled. Here's some fabric that I dyed. It's some fabric that my sister-in-law sent me. I dyed it with a taupe, and there's my coat I made with the squares, the fabric squares that were in that big box. The color, or the fabric in the little box there I just showed you, was the original color. So I used taupe to mute it. Now when I dye fabric, which I have gotten into dyeing fabric, cotton is my favorite, and I use a color catcher when I wash out after I dye it, the fabric, then you wash it, and I put a color catcher in, and I also put a color catcher in after when I go to wash it. Like I've dyed some bed sheets, and so I just put a color catcher in. There's one time I put a a white t-shirt that got a little bit dingy just from a couple of years or whatever, and I put that in with this cinnamon spice color sheet that I had dyed, and it turned it a beautiful shade of pink. So there you go. Second dyeing. But with the color catchers, I just decided to start keeping them because they kind of feel like a fabric type of material. They almost feel like a very lightweight felt. I don't know what exactly they're made of, but I know I can sew on them, and I'm going to use them now to make this sweet little photo stamp journal, postage stamped journal with my little fake stamps, my little fake postage stamps, and using the leftover. When I made that coat, the bottom was too long, so I just cut it off and kept the remnant. And then when I had to shape it around the arm, the shoulder area, I saved that back too. And yeah, I just love how that coat turned out, but I was real scared. I mean, the whole thing was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And I sewed it down. I actually did it standing up to sew it on the sewing machine because it was so long, and I thought I'd get tangled up sitting down, and I don't know. Anyway, it came out, and it's got a lobster trying to crawl out of the pocket on the back. But yeah, it was neat. It was neat when I saw the squares. I think they were probably meant to be made into a quilt, and I don't really need any more quilts. I've got some, all over the house that I've bought. I made a couple of little lap type quilts, and I thought, oh, I want a patchwork coat, so there I go. It took me a few months, to get up the nerve. That dress that I used for the base, the denim dress, I've had that since, I want to say 12 years, but it may be even more. I'm not sure. And I liked it, but I never really loved it because it was always a little bit too big for me. And the short sleeves, it's like, this doesn't seem right. And so I hardly wore it, but when I did bring it out, I was always struggled to style it, and I didn't know what to do with it. So one day, a few weeks ago, I decided, well, okay, this is going to be the coat base, and I just went for it. I cut off the collar, and I cut the hem raw, and I cut the sleeves raw, and sent it through the washing machine again so they would fray, and immediately liked that better. And then got the squares, and I had pinned it, and I actually even sewed one side on the front, no, it's actually on the back. I sewed the back on, and it was still the same regular, how the fabric came. And I had it hung up in my bedroom, and I would look at it, and I would go, it's just, something's not right. Something is not right. I think it's just like too bright. But what do I do? So that was a few more days of like, what am I gonna? So then I decided I didn't want to have to undo all that stitching on the back, and then I thought, no, I'm gonna do it. I took that off, took the rest of the strips that I had sewn the squares together, and put that. I dye the fabric with Rit dye in my washing machine because that's the easiest. I don't have enough clearance between the stove top and the hood range to get one of those big, kettles. What do you call them? The big deep pot and I don't want to boil it on the stove. I did that before with a couple of things, and it's really annoying. You have to get up every 7 minutes and stir it, and I just so with the with the Rit dye, I dye it in the washing machine, and I used taupe, and crossed my fingers, and about 40 minutes later I pulled the fabric out, and it was the right. It wasn't bright anymore. And as you can see here in the pieces, it was perfect for what I had in mind for this coat that I wanted to make. And so I resewed it, and then I had found that lobster in a clearance rack at Joann's. 70 cents for this big, like, I think it was like a yard or half a yard of fabric. And it's a canvas fabric just filled with lobster. So I cut one of those out and made an applique. And then I had this piece of, well, it was a linen pillowcase, heavy duty, from IKEA. I like to go to the clearance bins at IKEA and see what they have. And so I got this huge pillowcase, like a decorative pillowcase with the buttons. And that's where I came up with the idea of making a lobster crawling out of the packet at the top of the coat. And I reused the button part, and so it's it's all just sort of came together. And instead of, I liked the patchwork, but I didn't want it to look like necessarily I came off the prairie. So I didn't want to put lace anywhere, and I didn't want the typical thing that you might think of. That's why I chose the lobster, because nobody expects a lobster. Yeah, so oh, and the pockets. I needed pockets, and I took a Home Depot canvas apron, one of those nail aprons. I think they were only like $1 or $2. I dyed that denim and then cut it in half, sewed them on the front for pockets, and then I kept the strings that the apron, you tie it up in the back, and I kept those strings so that I could cinch the coat in a little bit, because it really was just a little bit too big for me. And now, it doesn't have to, I don't have to look like a rectangle. I've got a little bit of a shape to it. So here we are then, back to the project at hand, and I'm really glad that I saved these color catchers until I could figure out what to use with them. And I love this color. This is eggplant, and I did a sheet with this color, and I did a dress. Let's see if I can find the picture of that to show you. Did that, was that last year? Yeah, I think it was last year. And it's just, discovering the Rit dye and how easy it is, especially if you do it in the washing machine, and how it just transforms things. That for me, if I didn't like the color of something, I had a linen dress that I thrifted. It's a J. Jill, and it was a bright blue color, and it was okay. But when I dyed it the blue, here's a picture of that. Loved it. The jacket I'm wearing, I dyed that with a light pink, and now I love it, and I'll wear it more now. Well, I didn't think this was going to turn a whole thing about dyeing fabric and making things, but here we are. So on this part, with everything that's on here, I'm using the Fabrifix instead of sewing it, but it all could be sewn on the sewing machine. It could be, hand sewn if you're into that, you want to do that. I haven't, I'm really not good at hand sewing, and I really don't have a desire to hand sew when I have a sewing machine. But anyway, and yeah, so any type of a sturdier fabric even to make this little journal, you know, that could work. It was just so, I don't know. I just loved how it turned out, how the little pieces came together, and I had just enough postage stamps. I wasn't even counting when I was cutting things out. But, serendipity, that happens a lot in my crafting. I just, things work out. I don't understand how or why, because I don't count a lot of things. I don't measure a lot of things. I just measure with my heart. But, yeah, I just, and here I'm just trying to make sure that the same fabric print doesn't show up on the next page as I'm, going through the journal and deciding what to put where. And yeah, this was fun. And in this little tiny bottle of Fabrifix, I've always gotten the bigger bottles, and I feel like I'm always battling with those bigger ones. They take on a life of their own. It's like they become self-aware or something, and they just want to come right out of that bottle. You leave it sit for a moment, and it's like, I'm coming out of this bottle now. You've released the genie. It's coming out. But this little tiny one was a lot easier to work with, for one, because it's not as heavy and bulky as the big ones. And I didn't mind it. The smell wasn't as bad as with the big ones. I have a lot of issues with the Fabrifix, so I don't use it a lot. But I did in this project. I did. I ordered this bottle from Amazon, and there I am. Just I just tacked it down. Really, was trying not to let the glue be so thick that it would show through the fabric or through the color catcher even. And I even used the Fabrifix on the little stamps, and just adding little bits of leftover dyed fabric pieces, and leaving the little raw edges. Love that. I really like these little. The Rit dye really did a good job making it look more vintage color. Now this color catcher was in a dye of wine color Rit dye, and it came out this beautiful color. It's wine burgundy. Now this one, this is I think the last stamp. I wasn't going to use it because I thought it was too big, but it just fits. So I decided to put that in, and just adding a little bit more. This little piece here was from a Pottery Barn duvet I found at a thrift store, and I dyed it marigold and then it filled in all the gap in the duvet, and I cut it into curtains for my kitchen. But yeah, here we go. So there's the cover. Here's the eggplant page. And then here is the wine. And how those came out. Real cute. Yeah. So here comes the part I don't like a lot of times in making journals. Is the signature sewing. I don't enjoy that part. I really don't. I know there's people that go, I love it, and you watch them on YouTube, and they just, da 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 da, and you this way and that way, and you make a knot, and then boom, and it's tight, and it's in there, and it's holding 15,000 pages together. I don't know. Anyway, here's what I'm using to sew my signature. There's my little monk cork monk. I lost the little plastic tip on my awl that goes on the sharp end. And I had saved that for years. I had it on it for years, but I lost it at one point, and I needed a piece of cork or something, and I didn't have it. And I was at the thrift store, and I saw this little monk sitting on a cork, and I went, oh, well, I'm not going to lose that. So that's what I got. This is some cotton crochet thread, and then that is some sort of weird type of yarn that I got, of course, thrifted that, and I'm going to use both of them together because I choose the danger. I don't know. I thought maybe it would work. That's a really big eye needle that came with my bookbinding kit that I got on Amazon. And here we go. I'm going to just guesstimate where the middle is and not even worry too much. When I was poking the holes through, I just sort of guesstimated where they should go. And you keep your tail. If you really need a good video for how to hand bind a signature, this is probably not it. But anyway, I'm just going through the holes and come back so that I have now a knot in the middle, and then I don't know what I'm doing here. I thought, well, do I pass this thing through? I think maybe that will work, and I passed it through there. I don't know why. I was dumb, because then I have it already, nailed in there. I've got that knot, and it's wiggly. It's wiggly. So, yeah. There I am trying to, no, great. What do? I have to redo this whole thing? Am I going to have to No, I won't do that. I'm just going to keep making, just garrote it back in there and keep making knots until I feel like it's not going to wiggle around anymore. Yeah, so, I just do what I can always just redo it, I guess, if I needed to, but it seemed to have worked. And then I decided, oh, hey, wait, I'll just leave the strings to dangle. And all this thing you could do it up. You could have beads dangling down. You could have, more things on each page, but I just wanted to keep it nice and simple and just focus on the few things that are in there, and here it is. Oh, I just love how it turned out. I'm just so thrilled with this. It was such a neat project to make the layers and make the stamps and then use the leftover dyed fabric that I made for my coat. And so it's just like a memento of all of that. And there's a signature in the middle of the signature. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope you try, something like this. It's nice because it's small. It's finite. It's not a huge journal that you have to figure out 16,000 pages, of what you're going to put in it and all the doodads and everything. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.